Hey class. So this lesson, we're going to just kind of jump right into it, and we're going to take the information that we had last week or this past week with the typography, and we're going to combine it with the lesson from shape layers using the ball in After Effects to create kind of like a poster. We're going to do like a music festival poster or something like that. Now, I have pulled up some inspiration for myself from the Adobe Stock website. And so I've got kind of like this inspirational image off to the side here where I can build something similar to this. And I found that on the Adobe Stock, like I said, website, where I believe you guys might have unlimited access to assets. You can try logging into to this using your Maricopa MEID information, well, your email address, and you should be able to download some stuff off here. We're not going to download though. We're going to learn to create new shapes inside of After Effects today. So, but if you want to like have inspiration, you can always come here and just type in like band or music festival posters. Let me see. Utilizing different sites for inspiration is always a great thing, and you can always just take images and put them into your Miro board and just kind of build something up. So, some really cool, inspirational looking music poster or posters for like a music festival, right? I would say stick to something simple. We're going to be using simple shapes um, in this project right now, and not using like complex illustrations, right? So we want simplistic shapes, kind of like these, this dot pattern and these right here and this little star thing, like the different stars and stuff. So we're going to kind of make a gridded image out like that as well. You could maybe try doing something like this if you're going to do something a little bit more simplistic like this. I would like to see at least a couple of them, because this is just too, I mean, it's simple, it looks really cool, but for animation wise, we want to see something um, a little bit more interesting here. So let's go ahead and kind of dive right into After Effects. And we have it open here. Now, I had a suggestion during the live streams that I like mention that I'm looking at the left or the right of the screen. So I'm going to try and do that as best I can. And we will see, how that goes. Like I said, I will try. If I don't get it very well on this first time, then I will, continue to try it next time. So now, let me do a couple things real quick off to the side. There we go. Let's see here. So what we're really wanting to focus on, let's go ahead and create, first of all, a new composition. Let's name this our main comp. Render even. We can do that. Main comp render, so we know what it is. Let's lock this aspect ratio here to the 16:9, but it will be 1920 by 1080 pixels. Make sure that your composition is at 24 frames a second. And let's put this at, just for now, we'll put it at 10 seconds. We'll likely shorten that down and trim our composition to have maybe a looping animation here. So the first thing that I notice is that this is a wide screen format and not a vertical format, which you would normally see on a poster, right? So maybe what we should do is we should, well, you could have it vertical, but if you have it vertical, what's going to happen is when you render it off, it's going to be, oh, excuse me, it's going to have, oh, excuse me, black bars on the side, which isn't something that you really want when viewing like a video, right? you know, it's okay to have vertical videos. It happens quite often for social media purposes, but if it's going to be like on YouTube or anything like that, you just have to keep that in mind, right? So let's kind of design one maybe that's more horizontal for the purposes of being able to, even though it's not traditionally what a poster would look like, or like a, you know, music festival or band poster, but it still will look cool, right? So that's kind of what we're going for right now. So I will let you guys choose whether you want to do a vertical format or if you want to do a horizontal format. If you want to do a vertical format, so I already created my composition. Let's say I want to edit it. There's a couple things you can do. You can come up to composition here, up in the left hand corner at the top, right up here, and then to composition settings. You can also hit Control K as in kite on your keyboard, and it will bring up these composition settings for you, and you can just switch the width and the height dimensions, right? So instead of 1920 by 1080, you could do 1080 by 1920, and it'll still, you might have to unlock this in order to do so, but you can absolutely do that if you would like to. Now, these band posters, you know, it's kind of combining everything that we've already learned so far in the last couple lessons, right? So we're going to be utilizing compositions, pre-compositions. We're going to be working with shape layers and building new shapes and animating those shapes. And then we're also going to be working with text, right? And so the text one, you know, that's going to, we're going to maybe address that later. Hopefully we get to that in this class. I don't want to stream and have you guys on here for hours and hours, but you know, at least this is the first part to get you guys started. So the first thing that I did, I have the composition set here. I'm going to go in and pick a color palette. Now, there's a couple different ways you can pick color palettes. Adobe also offers like a color palette generator if you want to use it. It's a little bit more complex. I don't like it. It's not as user friendly. You guys can always go to it if you want to. You can just type like color palette picker or generator. Excuse me. And down here you can pick the Adobe color wheel or the palette generator. This one's a little bit more complex, like if we visit this, and you can kind of move these around to pick a color scheme. And the reason that they're all moving at once when I grab one of these is because we have it set to an analogous over here in the upper, let me see, I don't want to do that. Over here in the upper left, we have a color harmony picked right here. And so let's move this to like a triad's good. Usually 3 colors is pretty nice. We could do square, actually 4 colors would be nice. And you can kind of come in here and you can rotate things and see what kind of color palette you like. Remove things, add things as you need to. I suggest let's stick with 4 colors for this project, right? Working within a 4 color working within any kind of limits to your project is going to be very helpful in the future when you start working. And the reason I say that is because no project that you're ever going to get when you go into the working field is ever going to just be an open project unless you are paying for that project and running it yourself. You're going to have, there's going to be stipulations, there's going to be guidelines where you can not work with, you know, you have to work within a certain boundary basically, right? So I would stick, you guys can use 3 to 4 colors total, and including black and white, or excluding black and white. So you can use black and white as like 2 free colors, right? But your main colors should be only 3 to 4. Now this one, the Adobe color picker, you know, cool. You can use that one if you like. I like to go to a website called coolors.co right here. And it's a color generator. It's a little bit easier. You can sign up if you want to. You don't have to. And the first thing you're going to do is hit the start generator. And when you're in this area, if you start hitting space bar, what you're going to notice is that it cycles through different colors. Let's say that you like a particular color from a color pattern and you want to keep it. You can just come over here and down at the, pick your color, and down at the bottom, there's a toggle lock you can click. And when you press the rest, it will cycle through here, right? So I actually like this color, and this color's pretty sweet. I actually like this entire color palette, so maybe let's export that. Maybe I'm going to unlock this and export the entire color palette. I will not be using all of the colors, just 3. But I like this. It's very bright and very summery to me, right? So I'm going to come up here and notice that you have the hex number, the hex value down here at the bottom of the color, which tells you what this could be. So you can always copy and paste that over into After Effects. Let's say I wanted to make that the background color. I could right click, go to new, and create a shape layer. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's not do it that way. Let's go to new, solid, and click here, and I could paste, which I never copied in the first place, so that's probably an issue. Let's go here, copy, paste. There you go. Hex color put in there, perfectly made. Like all of a sudden I have my color palette, right? The other thing that you can do is you can always export this entire palette out. If you come up to the upper right hand corner, it says export, and if you click on that, you can export it in many different ways. ASE is an Adobe file, which allows you to basically bring it into your for instance, if you have this open, like Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to do this real quick. Oh, I didn't want to close it now. But there's the color palette there, and that color palette area allows you to import these ASE files. You can also download it as an SVG or an image. I'm probably just going to download it as an image. I'm going to type it Summer Blast because that's what it reminds me of. And hex color space is good. You can use RGB if you want to, but the hex color space is a little bit easier. It's going to give you these numbers, give you more of an accurate, let me see. There's a pro option here. You don't have to do that. Let's go here, options. You can use your custom logo. We'll export that. And it's going to be in my downloads folder, which I will bring to my desktop just for the moment. Let me go to add this in. Let's do a proper folder for this project. So let me just get this ready off to the side real quick, and then I'll bring it into view for you guys to see. All right. So I've got this template folder set up in my, sorry, let me just open something real quick. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D. I hit the wrong one. Okay, Control D, nope. Control Z to undo. I'm going to copy, Control C, Control V to paste, right? And then I'm going to rename this. This is your third project, _ fun with shapes. underscore poster, and open this up. And I am going to drag that image into my assets folder, into images. So I had saved this color palette image on off to the side of my desktop. And I'm just going to drag that into images so I can keep it organized, right? So it's really important you guys learn to keep this whole area nice and clean so that, like I said, if you pass files off ever, that they will be easy to view and navigate for another editor, right? All right, let me see here. Opening some more stuff. Now, the other thing that I want to do right away is I want to save this project file, right? So I'm going to come up to File, up in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to go to Save As, or you can just hit Control-Shift-S, and then I'm going to navigate over to the folder that we had, and I'm going to save it in my After Effects as Makara underscore fun with shapes poster. That works. Hit save. And now when I hit Control S, I can save anytime I want, won't lose my work. I will have a good setup here. Now, let's go ahead and, sorry guys, I'm trying to just pull a couple things off to the side for me to be ready or not. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of bring our color palette into, let's import that into After Effects here. And then we're going to start building out our scene and our subscenes. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is come over here into my project panel, and I'm going to add a new folder that says underscore comps. Set this project up. I'm going to drop that main composition into that folder. The next thing I'm going to do is create a new folder called assets. And we're going to open this up. I'm probably going to add a new folder in here, even though I won't have a lot, and I'm just going to write image. And then I'm going to select that folder, hit Control I on your keyboard, and that will go to your import, and I can go to where I saved that color palette and import that into my scene, or import it into my project. We're not bringing this into the scene yet. Just hit import down here for footage. That's okay. Perfect. Now, if I double click on this, I have everything set up. Now, the problem is that when you go to move something off screen, it's not like in Adobe Illustrator, right? So if I drag this down here into our main comp and I bring this off screen, like on Illustrator, you're going to still see the object outside of your artboard, right? But we're working in Adobe After Effects, and this is a composition. And so whatever is outside of your scene is not going to appear in your workspace, right? And so we have to keep that in account when we're wanting to utilize this color palette. And so the first thing that I like to do is I actually like to use shape layers to create my color palette using my eyedropper tool, right? So the first thing, I just brought this image down here into my composition. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top toolbar here, and I'm going to select my rectangle tool. Let's see. Yeah. And I'm going to click on the fill. And over here, when you look at the fill, there's this little eyedropper tool. You can click on that and just click on the color there. It's the same. You've got the same hex code down here. I'm going to hit OK. And I am just going to hold down Shift and draw a square. Right. Now, I'm going to hit V on my keyboard to go back to my my selection, and I'm going to rename this color just like well, I don't really have to rename this color right now because it's not really, it's not necessary. It might be good for organizational purposes, but for this purpose right now, I'm just not going to. The one thing that I do want to do though, is I want to adjust where my anchor point is. I want it in the center of my object there. So I'm just going to hit Control and double click. Let me see. I'm pretty sure that was it. Or Shift double click. Not Control. Is it Alt? I guess not. Actually, it's this one. There we go. You don't, I was selecting the layer here and Control double clicking the layer, and that's not what you want to do. You want to have the layer selected first in order to get the anchor point to center in the middle of the object. Again, select your layer, and then you're going to Control and double click up here on your pan behind tool, your anchor point tool, right? And so that's going to center it right there for you. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into rectangle, and under rectangle path down here in your layer, you're going to open that layer up, right? Your like transform properties here. And, but instead of going to your transform properties, we don't want to go there. We're going to go to the rectangle shape. And then we're going to go to rectangle path here, and we're going to unfurl these little menus. And under size, we're going to make sure that the little locking symbol is like the chain link is locked, right? We don't want to unlock that. And we're just going to type in here 100. So it's exactly 100 by 100. It's small enough. It's not really as... It's not going to take up a lot of real estate, basically, because we're going to have this off to the side so that we can utilize it as needed, right? And so I am going to grab my selection tool again, now that I've got this at the appropriate size. And instead of creating another shape layer, what I can do is I can actually, inside of this shape layer, is I can go in and duplicate this rectangle. So a couple different options for you guys to use. Duplicating the shape layer, if I hit Control D on my keyboard, is going to fully duplicate that layer. And then I have a completely separate object that I can move around, right? I'm going to actually hide, let me hide the Summer Blast there, right? So now I have two objects, totally separate layers, completely separate transform properties, all on their own. And then even then I can come in here and I could go into contents under rectangle in the layer, and then, you know, open up these little menu drop downs and get a little bit more detailed in that. Right? That's one option. This is the option that we're going to use for most of the shapes we're working with today. And the second option here is if I delete this, I can come, if I select my layer, I can select under contents the actual rectangle drop down area. Not, you don't have to unfurl it, just select the actual this part of the layer, right? And I'm going to hit, I'm going to unfurl that back up. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit Control D, and that's going to duplicate the rectangle directly on top of the first one. So if I hide this second one that I made, it's still going to show the first one there, right? So I'm going to hide it. It's the first one's there. Nothing happened. If I hide that first one and hide that second one, you can see that there are two shapes, right? And the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to move this. I want to transform this rectangle over so that they're side by side, essentially, right? And now I made this square exactly 100 pixels, 100 by 100, so that I could easily do math and change the position of this rectangle so that they're butted up directly like next to each other, right? And so because the anchor point is in the center of the object, we want to cut that, because we're like having the shape. Let me zoom in here. We're cutting the shape in half. And so we need to cut that value in half of the size of the rectangle. So, which would be 50 pixels, right? Half of 100 is 50. And so in this position spot here, it's going to look all crazy because of where this layer is in space, and then where this layer, the like sub layer rectangle, is in space, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfurl not the rectangle path, but the transform properties. I'm going to go to the second rectangle and select it. And then unfurl that menu. And then there's a transform properties just for rectangle 2. That's the one that I want to unfurl. And under position, the position of this rectangle 2 specifically, I'm going to come to my X value because I want to go side to side. And I'm going to click on that. So I selected, and I'm going to arrow over, because the cool thing about Adobe, like the Adobe suite, is that any kind of value based selection that you can grab here, you can do math in it automatically, and it does it for you, so you don't have to actually do it in your head, right? Work smarter, not harder. So I'm actually going to put plus 50. Actually plus 100. Never mind. I thought I would have to have it, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and undo that and put plus 100. Oh, let's see if it did it automatically. I didn't even have to arrow over, which is nice. And then we're going to do that again, right? So we're going to duplicate this one. We have 3 colors that we're using. Now, I'm not going to use 4. I'm going to use 3. And I'm going to go to the third transform property, and I'm just going to go in back here and hit plus 100. And then it adds it there. And so then we have these 2. I'm not going to worry about black and white because those are really easy colors to select on the inside of your color picker. The cool thing about having all of your shapes in one shape layer like this is I can label this color palette ETTE. Sometimes I swear I can't see. And now when I grab this, I can move this entire thing and not have to worry about my other layers being connected to each other, because we're going to talk a little bit about parenting today. And with this method, you don't have to have any kind of parenting happening, which is essentially a linking option where you kind of tie 2 objects together. Now, notice that initially I had put the anchor point at the center of this main square right here, but I kind of want it in the center of this overall. And so again, now that I've added additional pixels and information to this layer, I'm going to select the layer again, because now this value of where the actual center is has changed. And I'm going to come up to my pan behind tool up in the top toolbar, and I'm going to double click on that again, and that's by hitting control double click, and that'll bring that anchor point to the center. And then I'm just going to click on V as in Victor to bring this selection tool back up, and I'm just going to kind of move it into the upper corner here. And now I want to update these colors so that they are all different, right? So I'm going to go down here now, and I'm going to turn back on my color palette that I have, this image, and I'm going to update these. The first thing that I want to do is I actually want this to not be such a bright yellow. I think I'm going to make it more of like a taupey color. Taupey. And so if you go to the first rectangle, if you've done it like this, you're going to go to the first rectangle and you're going to unfurl that, and then you're going to go to the fill option. So unfurl that, go to fill, and then I can come here and select any color that I want to change it to, right? Well, right now, because I want that kind of beigey taupey color, let's click on this. You can just click on the actual color itself, and then I can kind of move this around to pick more of a neutral color for the background, which will be nice. Let me see. I think I'm going to move it over to here, less saturated, more in the soft yellow, and then I'm going to bring this value down into the oranges a tiny bit, maybe just a hint. Maybe shuffle this over just a little bit more, this color, and that'll be okay. And now let's recolor the second rectangle. So I'm going to come under here to fill, and let's pick this magenta color here. And then finally, let's go to the third color, and under fill, I'm going to select this kind of lighter blue at the end. I would normally, actually, let's select this orange color. looks more like sunny and happy and stuff. Normally, I would kind of stay away from these two colors, and the reason being is that this blue and this magenta color, this like kind of indigo-y color and this magenta color are very similar in saturation value. And it almost is like there's kind of this struggle between your eyes to figure out which color you want to look at first. And so like if you start to stare at this little section here, you're like, oh, my eyes feel weird. If you are doing that, if your eyes start to feel weird like that when you're designing something, usually it means that like something's too similar. Either you're using two complementary colors that are too close in saturation value, or you're or just in general they're just too close in saturation, and so you need more contrast, right? And so adjusting either the darkness or the lightness value of that color is going to aid in picking something that's a little bit more easy on the eyes, right? And so even this yeah, I might even pick, let's see here, I like the orange, I like that one color. Let's see what it looks like with just the blue in the instead of the magenta. Let's pick this one and see if I like that. I mean, I don't mind it, but I think I'm feeling the magenta. I don't normally use this color palette, so let's go that way. And then what I'm going to do is I want to keep this color palette in here anyways, because just in case, and I'm just going to hide that, right? So that I don't have to see it. Now, let's say our layer, I'm going to make this panel here larger by hitting the tilde button on my keyboard, which is the button on the, it's kind of like a squiggly line button in the upper left corner of your keyboard. And if you click on that when you're hovering over any kind of panel in After Effects, and you click on that, it will expand it. And you click off, click on, click off, right? And so that expands that panel in case you need a little bit more real estate to do something. Now, for instance, I like this. I like having this color palette picture, this image in my composition here, but I don't really want the layer to be on my timeline because I'm not going to be really coming into this a lot, and it's kind of just going to use up real estate. I can always make this bigger and stuff, but I like to have a decent look at my composition. Some of you guys are only working on a single screen. Some of you guys are working on laptop screens. So having all of the visual space for your comp makes sense, right? And so what I want to do here is I want to hide, like you can hide and reveal the layer by clicking the little eyeball. Hide, reveal. But I want to hide the actual layer itself. And I'm going to do that by hitting this little, he looks like a little spy, like, gosh, what is that game you get, like all that was like super popular a couple years ago. You guys don't know what it is. But if I click on that right now, nothing happens. And it's because I have to toggle on the shy layer, right? So I'm going to make sure that this is toggled on first. And then when I do that, that layer disappeared. Now, let's say I want to find that layer again, right? I would just disable the little shy guy switch again, and then here it is. And then I want to be like, okay, now I don't want that hidden anymore. So I'll click that. But if I click that and then I click this, it'll hide it. And then if I click this one right here, it also hides it. Now I can still select and move that layer, but it's just hidden out of our, it's hidden here in our timeline. I do want to see this color palette option so that I can hide and unhide that as I go, right? So I'm going to save that real quick. It's not, you know, we're not very far in the process, but still important to just get used to saving randomly. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make the background color this neutrally kind of yellowish orange. And so I'm going to right click down in my timeline here, and I'm going to go to new solid, and I am going to take my eyedropper tool and select that medium orange, and it's going to create that entire solid for me. Now again, layer order matters, right? So the color palette is just hidden underneath the layer above it. And let's go ahead and come up here. Now let's go ahead and let's lock this background so that we don't actually accidentally start moving this around when we're trying to grab at other things, right? And so, because the background's not going to change, it's going to stay in place. It's not really going to move. And so I am going to come over here to this layer. I'm going to select the background and I am going to lock it in the, on the layer. It's on your left-hand side. So now if I select that and I try and make changes, it will not allow me to make changes. You know, so this is kind of like a review and also, like a new thing that we can do. The next thing I want to do is I kind of want to set up my grid, right? The other one had the image that I showed you before had a grid. It doesn't have to have a grid. I'm going to work in that space. I've also pulled like this as a inspirational image as well, which is kind of neat because you can see that where these intersect, these two circles intersect kind of like a Venn diagram in the center part, the color changes. Well, this can get really cool if we start using layer styles, right? So let's kind of set these up. I'm going to set one up more gridded like this, and then we can maybe mess around with layer styles and maybe some textures and stuff if we have time. And so let's kind of grid out this whole thing. Let me see here. I kind of want to have, let's do this right here. Let's go. I want to have a few shapes here. And let's just hide this background layer so that I can see the black here so I can build my shapes out, and then we'll turn that layer on. Now, I'm going to select my rectangle tool to build the grid, and I'm going to start with that main background color. And I'm going to hit OK. And the first thing that I'm going to do is draw a rectangle. If I want to hit Shift, I will have a square. In fact, I could do a square first. And I want to center that. So I'm going to Control double click that pan behind tool. Center the anchor point. And we're going to wait to relabel these until we have our grid kind of set up, right? And instead of duplicating the little parts on like the little shapes within the layer, I'm actually going to create a new shape layer for each one of these because I want to have maybe a little bit more flexibility when it comes to animating these objects. And because I want that flexibility, I want to have as many options on that one layer and on each layer as possible. So I'm going to create a separate shape for each one of the grid sections. And so I'm just going to Control duplicate, and then I'm going to hit V on my keyboard to select the selection tool, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to drag this over to the right. In fact, I'm going to, let's go ahead and let's do this mathematically, right? I hate math, but here we go. So it's 240, the first rectangle that we made right here is 245 pixels. Let's make that an even 250. And then let's make that change up here as well on the rectangle up here. So they're the same size, 250. And then, if I select both of these, holding down Shift, and I hit T on my keyboard, I'm sorry, not T, but P for position, I can see the exact spots that these were. I want this to be, I'm going to copy the first shape because I want it to be exactly over top of the other layer. So if you select the transform property here and not the actual layer, because when you select the layer, it's going to highlight that. But when you select the transform property, the layer's still selected, but the transform property gets highlighted. That works for any kind of sub menu within your layers. And I'm, because this one was over, I had shifted it over to the side, but then changed the value of the size. I want to just kind of update that accordingly. So I place this back in the same spot as where the other one was. And now I'm going to take this position, right? And the X value, I want to add 250 because that's the size of my square. And then I'm probably going to do that again. Let's see here. Duplicate this again. And instead of, I'm going to hit P on the keyboard for my position. And now this one is below the square here. So I am going to actually add 250. We're going to add 250 to the Y value, and it's going to drop it down to the bottom. And we're going to do this again here. I'm going to select the first square, duplicate, hit P on the keyboard. We're kind of working out of order here, and that's okay because I'll rearrange these layers in a second. And then I'm going to press here, and I want it to go down. I actually want it to go 250 in the Y value. So plus 250 when I select that Y value. Now we have like an even square. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to create this like rectangular shape. So like a 1x2 block, right? So I'm going to take this shape, either this one right here will be perfect. Let's take shape layer 3 and duplicate that. And then I'm going to hit P on the keyboard for position. And I'm going to add 250. So it's going to move over on my X position. Now, though, I want to double the height because I want this rectangle to be tall. And so it's instead of a square, it's a rectangle, right? And so now I need to come over here into the size menu. Well, let's do this. I selected the shape that I just created because I want to double the height in it. And I go into the rectangle, under rectangle path again, and then it's going to be under size. But we need to shut off the linking there so that we have the ability to change that X value, right? And so now I'm going to change this to 500. And I'm going to grab this option here. And I want to change the anchor point to the top so that I can kind of align this. Or what I can do is if I hit Control Z and then I take the position, if I go to P, this might be a little bit easier so that I can keep the anchor point there. And I want to move it up on the Y value to get up to here. So I think, let's try 250. That was a little bit much, so we have to cut that in half. So let me undo that. Wait, I didn't hit plus 250. Let me see there. Nope. Minus 250 because we need to go up. Nope. Let's undo that. I'm just hitting Control Z to undo. And let's minus, I think with the minus, you have to like move your arrow key over maybe. Minus 175 because that's half of 250. Or 125. Shoot, sorry. Math is funny. Minus 125. There we go. Perfect. Now it's aligned perfectly here. And then I want to create another one under here that is a long rectangle. So I'm going to select that shape and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to go to position and I want to drop it down on the X value. So plus 250, enter. Oh, wait, not X, Y value. Sorry. Plus 250. And then I want to extend the size, right? So I'm going to drop this down again. Go into my contents to rectangle 1 to rectangle path, and under size I'm going to unlock this, and then also on the Y value type in 500. Now the other thing that we notice is that it's not in the right rotational property, right? So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard and then I'm going to hit P so that I can work with the rotation and the position, and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. And then the next thing I want to do now is I want to shift this over. So I'm going to go on the X value, right? So I want to, let's just double check that. Yep, perfect. And I'm going to add 125. There we go, perfectly lined up. And then the next thing we want to do is I'm going to duplicate that again because we're building that grid. Hit D. And I'm going to go in there and update it to be opposite. So down to rectangle, as far as like size goes, I'm going to type in 250 here. So it's a square. And then I am going to close this, select the position, and 125. I think if I just add 250, let's see. I think I'm going to have to add, yeah, another 125 to that. So then I'll just click 125. So 375 is what you should add to that one to get this like squared, this single square of different panels, right? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over to my layers inside of my timeline, and I'm going to start to label these so I know which one each one is, right? So this one, and I'm going to hit enter when I select it, and instead of, I'm just going to type in grid, GRID. In fact, I'm going to make it all caps so that I can easily see it, _1. And then I'm going to Control A and copy that so that now when I grab each one, I want to grab the appropriate one here. So I can rename this one to enter grid 2. And then here, enter, hit V, grid 3, grid blocks, right? So, and then I'm going to just kind of drag these down so that they're in order. And then the next one here, enter V, Control V, grid 4. Not that one, not that one, this one. Enter, Control V, grid 5. So I'm going from left to right, left to right, left to right. And this one is next. Grid 6. And grid 7. Nice. Now, all of them are in this area, but it's kind of small considering like the size of our composition. So we want to resize this. But to go into each one of these layers and try and resize these shapes separately would be a real pain, right? It'd be exhausting. It's a lot of tedious work. So we want to, again, work smarter and not harder. So we're going to do something called creating a null. And what a null object is it's basically a blank invisible layer that is created that holds no values to it, no shapes, no pixels, nothing, right? It's just kind of like opening a folder or creating a new folder on your computer, and it's waiting to be assigned something. And so I'm going to right click into my timeline here, and I'm going to go under new, and I'm going to select new null object. Let's see. Let's do that again. New null object. And what is going to happen is this, you're going to see this guidelines, right? Because these don't show up in your renders, but it does show up on the center of your composition. And the center of your entire scene, right, is where this null object is going to automatically show up. Now, if I grab this and move it around, it moves, but nothing's attached to it, right? Again, it has no values. It has no pixels added to it, nothing. It's just a blank folder or a blank layer. And so what I want to do right now is I actually want to add all of these grids to this blank layer so that I can resize it appropriately without having to go in and resize everything individually. I can do it all once with this one technique. And so the first thing, this we're going to do through a technique called parenting, and we're going to just kind of quickly touch base on that now, but we're going to really work more a little bit of this later. We're going to get into that a little bit more into this lesson a little later, but basically parenting, there's something called a parent-child link. And whenever you take something and say, this is the parent, right? This null object is my parent. I'm going to set it in the center of my grid here as close as possible. And I want to assign that parent the children. So I'm going to select this layer and hold down shift and selecting the rest of the grid layers. And if you look over here on your timeline, over in on your layer here, let's zoom in here. You see this little kind of squiggly line right there. These are called, it's called a pick whip tool. If I spell it, let me see. Let me back out of this. Escape, escape, escape. I don't know why it's not doing that. Not sure why I can't get out of this right now. Okay. Either way, pick whip, PICKWHIP, pick whip tool. And you can either, there's two options right here, right? So you can either select this and drag it to that null layer. So you just click that and drag. And because all of your layers are selected, it will do the same for all of them. Or what you could do is click this little drop down menu, actually not that one, but click one of these ones that are on your selected layers and select the null object. So I'm going to do it with the pick whip. I'm just going to grab this here. You're going to see a little blue line. And when I let go, you're going to notice that all of a sudden in the parent link option, it's going to have all the null. Now, because I have all of these children, my one parent here has 7 children, which is a lot of kids. I'd be curious to know if any of you guys have that many siblings. But now when I grab that null object, it moves all of these at once, right? So it's almost similar to what we did here where we created one single layer with all of the images on it. But because I want to have more control over animation later, I want to have these on separate layers. And the way I can kind of resize and move everything at once is by creating that null object. Now, the reason this moved right now is because I actually clicked and dragged on this specific layer. So now these not only have their own autonomy, right? These grid layers that I created, but they also will follow around the parent. And so I'm going to put here, I'm just going to put grid controller so that I know that this is my null object that controls my entire grid, which is great right now because I want to scale this up a little bit. So I'm going to select my null. And the cool thing about the nulls is that they have all of the transform properties that you would have in any kind of layer, right? So I'm going to select that, hit S for scale, and then I'm going to scale this up just a bit. Not all the way, just a little bit there. And then I want to move this off to the side here because I am going to have my text come into my area over here. And so I kind of want to try and evenly place this. The thing is that the null might not be perfectly centered within this gridded area. And the reason being is because this square right here that I made, the 5th square, wasn't perfectly centered in alignment with the actual composition. That's okay in general. If it looks pretty good, then it should work. And then I'm going to, if I turn that background on, let's go ahead and start changing the colors of some of these, right? Now, instead of having to go drop down in the menu to go change the colors, because these are separate layers, we can just click up here and change colors as needed. And so I'm going to kind of switch between this, so leave some of them this cream color, so they're going to almost look like a negative. And then I'm going to select the orange in the magenta color as well. So I'm just going to hit I on my keyboard, or I'm just going to select that object right there, grid 1. I'm going to select this one here, and I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool and select that. And I'm going to select this one. Let's change this one to an orange. Select here. This one, let's go for like a black color. So I'm going to drop down all the way here to black. In fact, I'm going to go kind of like a slightly lighter black, almost like a gray color. Yeah, that looks cool. And so kind of shifting just from black or white and giving the like black a little bit of a tint, or the white a little bit of a shading color. Like it makes your composition look a little bit nicer instead of just a stark black and white, unless that's all you're working in, right? And so the next thing I want to do is like, let's change this one. We'll change it to the magenta color. I'm going to leave this one on the side. Let's change this one to this magenta. This one here can be the orange. And if you can guess, this one here is going to be the black color, which I will grab from right here. Okay. All right, so we have our grid set up here. Now if I hit Control Save, I want to make sure I save everything. Let's turn the background on, and now we can kind of see what our grid is going to fully look like. And this, again, we still have this rectangle there, but it's not, um, it's you know, it's still there, but it's just the color of the background, so not a big deal. And then I'm going to hide my color palette. I want to keep the grid controller, but I want to hide this color palette here so I don't have to look at it anymore. We've got the colors that we need. In fact, I'm going to shy that layer, right? I'm going to fully hide that layer. And the next thing I want to do is let's kind of set up the shapes that we want to use within here. And so let's have some fun with some of these shapes. Let's go ahead and let me see as far as what I got over here. As far as inspiration, this one's pretty cool to start off with, and it's going to look cool when you animate and offset these images. So I'm going to come up here and select the ellipse tool, and instead of having a fill color, I want to create a new shape layer, but I want it to be a stroke. So I'm just going to draw one real quick holding down Shift so I get a perfect circle. And I'm going to keep it the black, I think. Actually, let me turn it into the magenta color. I think that'll be cool. And then actually we're going to just do it under the stroke. I didn't mean to grab the fill, only the stroke. I'm going to hit OK. And then the fill I'm going to shut off. So before the stroke was completely turned off, and now I'm going to shut the fill off by just clicking on the fill name and hitting the little red slash option. Now I want to obviously make the stroke width quite a bit smaller, so we're going to decrease this value here. Let's go ahead and see what 25 looks like. 25 is a little bit much. Let's go to 10. 10 looks cool. And I am going to grab my selection tool, and actually I'm going to control double click on the pan behind tool to set my anchor point in the center. Make sure that's done. And then I'm going to grab my hit V on the keyboard and grab my selection tool. And then the first thing I want to do is I'm going to start to kind of line these up here. Let's look at the position of this. So I'm going to rename this. In fact, let's clean up this before we get too in depth with it. The first thing that I want to do is, do I want to do that? Let me think real quick. I think I'm going to leave it for now, but instead of what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change these layer colors here so I can kind of differentiate them from each other in my timeline. And so this one, I'm going to go up here and select maybe this pink color so I can tell, okay, this is my magenta shape. And that way it's a little bit different from the grid. The grid is just basic white. The grid controller I'm going to actually change to the basic white too, so I know that they're kind of together, right? So I'm grouping by layer color. And I am going to take this, let's take this this circle, and I'm just going to name it circle outline like that. And then when I duplicate it, oh, actually, let's do this first. Let's make sure that it's the like kind of an even size, so that when we go to change it, let's do 200. And that way when we go to I'm going to duplicate these going up, and we will be able to have it, like, do the math on it a little bit easier. So I'm actually going to, with this one, what do I want to do? I want to have, let's do a little bit more control. And I'm going to do just, I'm actually, instead of circle outline, I'm going to name it circle stroke. And I'm going to duplicate this, and then it's going to add a 2 there, which is great. And then I'm going to hit P on my keyboard, and I want to go up. How big did I make this? 200. So I want to go up on Y value by 100. So it's going to be a minus because we're going, remember, if we're moving up and down on the Y value, right? 0 is where, if you're looking at this like a graph, right? 0, 0, the center of your graph is up here in the upper left-hand corner of your composition. And so the X value goes left and right, the Y value goes up and down. And when you want to decrease, like when you want to bring something up, you have to decrease a Y value. If you want to bring something down, you have to increase a Y value. So just make sure you're remembering that. And so I'm going to grab that, and I am going to probably, let's start it at 1715. So it's like an even number there. And then I'm going to arrow over and hit minus 100. Oh, wrong side. I did it on the X value. So 700. Position. Let's change this one to, I forgot that. Let's delete this real quick. This one right here. Let's change it to something even. I like even numbers, or like multiples of 5. 700 on the value there. Actually, let's go down a little bit more until it's like centered, aligned with this. There we go. 707 it is. And I'm going to duplicate, hit P on my keyboard, go to the Y value, arrow over, minus 100. All right, let's do that again. Duplicate, position, Y value. It's just going to be 507. You can just type these in. You don't have to do the extra step. Duplicate. In fact, I actually kind of want to go a little bit. I want them to overlap a little bit differently. So let's move this one slightly down. So it's not quite at 100. Let's do 707 minus 75. There we go. So we're going to subtract 75 to each one. So I'm going to duplicate this. P, go to the Y value, over, minus 75. Cool. Yeah, let's do that. Duplicate, position, Y value, minus 75. And we're going to do this a few times. P, Y value, minus 75. Let's do it. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do 7 of them because I like odd numbers when it comes to shapes. Let's see, or just things on screen. Just tends to look a little bit nicer. Minus 75, and then one more. Duplicate. Minus 75. Excellent. And now we're going to unfurl these, or furl them back up so that we see them. I'm going to save my composition. And now I want to kind of shift these upwards so that they're centered within this actual rectangle. And so what I'm going to do in order to do that is just what I did to move these grids. I'm going to select all of these, and I can actually, a new way to create a null is you can go up to Layer, New, up at the top panel here in the menu. You go to Layer, you go to New, and then you'll hit Null Object. You can also hit Control-Alt-Shift-Y, and that will create a null object. Now, here's the problem, is that the null object is in the center of the composition still, and not in the center of my actual objects. Now, that can become a problem, right? That can become a pain in the butt. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that null object, and we're going to change a little preference setting inside of our software here in order for that null object to kind of center in the middle of the objects that we have selected. And so what I want to do is I want to come up to this tool menu, or the menu up at the top left corner, and I'm going to go to Edit, and down at the bottom there's a spot that says Preferences, and I'm going to go to General. And it's going to actually open up all of those preferences. And over here, I believe there's an option to dynamic link, create split layers above original, synchronize, center, anchor point, and new shape layers. You could do that if you want all your anchor points to be in the center. I think that's going to work for the null. I think that will do that. Let me see. Grids and guides. let's just try this. Let's see if it does it in the center. Might not. I've got all of these selected. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Null Object, and it's still created in the center of the center of the composition, your main composition, like your screen, right? So I'm just going to drag that over there, and then I'm going to grab all these, holding down Shift, and I'm going to drag the pick whip over to the null, and I'm going to select that, and I can type circle, stroke, controller, and then I'm just going to hit P on that null and drag that upwards so it's kind of centered right here. Let's scale it down a tiny bit because I don't want it to overlap this. I want it to be right here. Let's hit Shift S on the keyboard to bring up the scale. Let's scale this down to 80%. There we go. That looks cool. And it's about centered. Let's kind of keep it right about where it was. I'm going to hit undo there and then just kind of drag this down a tiny bit. And there we go. So we've got this first section here. And I'm going to delete this null. Maybe not. I think I'm going to leave the null controller there and change the color to the pink so that it fits in with these. And I'm going to save this. Let's go ahead and create another shape here. Let's do something a little bit more interesting than any of these regular colors here. Now we can go to the star tool and you can select the star tool and create a star. And then over here in your properties panel on the right side, you have your properties panel right here. And you can change the points on the star. You can change the type of the shape. You can change the color. So I can change this to a polygon. And then I can increase or decrease the amount that there are, right? So there's 50 there. Like if I put this as like 10, it's going to look more like, 8 would be a stop sign, right? No. 10 is the stop sign. There we go. I believe so. Oh, it looks like a little extra. But either way, you can understand the concept there. And did you notice that if you take this polygon, if you have the star, which is 5-sided, or I'm sorry, the polygon, or even the star, and you drop this down to 3 points, it's going to make, for the star, it's going to look kind of like what is it? Mercedes logo. And if you hit polygon, it's going to be a triangle. So let's go ahead and, do I want to use these? Maybe, possibly. Let's let's fill this one in. So instead of a stroke, let's shut the stroke off. We're going to make a fill. And I think I'm going to do the black color. And I'm going to hit OK. And I am going to hit VME keyboard. And over here in this properties panel, you can also change things like the size and all of that stuff too. So like the outer radius here, I don't want it to be as long. It's similar as to going into this drop down menu right here. And so this outer radius, I'm going to actually change it to 50 because I want this triangle to be a little bit smaller, maybe 75. There we go. And I am going to, now that we had selected to center the anchor point from the, in that preferences menu, now if I select on the shape, all of the center point is from where the shape originally was. So I just have to update that because I changed the size of it. And I'll just hit Control, double click on that pan behind tool and bring that there. And the one thing I want to do here is I'm going to rename this to triangle. And bring this over here. And let's see what I want to do with this. First of all, I'm going to change the layer color so it's something very different from what we already have to a blue. And then I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to hit P on my keyboard and I am going to move it over. How big is this one? 75. So, oh, go to the X value plus 75 because I want the load. Let's double that. So sometimes plus 150. Close enough. If you want to just drag it, I bet you, let me see here. Plus 100. 125. Let's see. There we go. It was 125. My math was off. Okay. And then I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to keep moving. Where's the other? I accidentally hid. So on my layers in my transform, or sorry, my timeline, I accidentally hid the first triangle layer. And so I'm going to shut off. I'm going to turn off the toggle the shy switch, and it's going to pop up there. And then I'm just going to hit this little shy switch on the layer, and it's going to keep that in there for me. And then I'm just going to turn on the switch again. That way it hides everything else except for this. In fact, I'm going to lock the grid right now. So I'm going to grab the grid controller all the way to grid 1, and I'm going to lock all these layers, and then I am going to hide them just so I don't have to see it while I guess I would have to have them all selected. Oh, because they're all locked. Let's see here. Grab all of these now and just shy them. All right, so they're just hidden out of view. You can still collect and or select and drag them if you want to. I'm going to duplicate this again and continue the process, right? So I think it was plus 125. Yeah. Duplicate it again. Position plus 125. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. And I'm actually going to hit position and rotation. I'm going to kind of throw these back up. And the first thing I want to do is I want to rotate this. In fact, let me delete this one. And I want to do it from the first one because I'm going to work from left to right. So grab this one, duplicate it, bring that up to the top here. And then position, rotation, P and R on the keyboard. I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees so it's upside down. And then I am going to go plus 125. Oh, wrong there. Ooh, this one's going to be plus 75. So plus 75. Maybe not. Maybe plus 50. Interesting how this is working when it comes to a triangle. The math might be a little bit different. So it's just a little trial and error. Let me undo that. Oh, plus 50. No, man. What is it? Either way, I'm going to drag this way like that so it fits. And then I'm actually going to push this one up a little bit. So there's kind of like this zigzaggy pattern that we have going on. Now I'm going to duplicate this one. Duplicate, position, plus 125. There we go. Duplicate, repeat the process. It's only going to have to be several triangles, so. All right, there we go. And let's update maybe, actually, let's add another one on here. No. Maybe, let's see what it looks like. Duplicate, position, plus 125. Yeah, let's keep it like that. And then let's color every other one like this off-white color, this like yellowish color. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's grab this one and this one. Ooh, didn't want to grab them all. If I select this and I hit Control and select, I can select them that way. So 2 and 4 and 6. Let's grab all the evens. We're going to change all their colors. And now because all of them are the same color, I can change them all at once, right? So I'm just going to go to the fill here. I'm going to select that and eyedropper and do that. And then it's kind of like this. Do I want to add another one this way? Let me try it. Duplicate this one, hit P. Now I want to subtract 125, and then it would have to be, no, I'm going to keep it like this. I'm going to delete this one, this extra one I made, and I'm just going to take a null object, layer, new, null object, and I'm going to hit P on my keyboard, and I'm going to make sure these are all connected using the pick whip tool. Oh, and if that happens, the little line will look like it breaks, like a string, and that's just meaning that it can't be connected to that. And then I'm going to shift it over with that controller. So I'm just going to put triangle controller P, move that over here a little bit so it looks centered by kind of like weight. I might change the colors on this a little bit later, but let's see. The next thing, let's do something in one of these boxes. So let's kind of, let's take that star. Let's try something with a star. I'm going to draw a star shape. It is holding down shift. It is going to be the color of the background right now, so we're going to have to change that. Let's change it to this color, the magenta. Click there. And let's change let's first of all bring this kind of right here. I'm going to fill this one. So we need it to be smaller, first of all. So let's change the inner radius to, let's see. Well, let's change the outer radius first to, it's 191 right now. Let's change it to 150. And the inner radius to 75. So half, right? Split in half. And I'm going to drag that center into my shape as much as I can. If I need to arrow over, up, down, left, right, you can do that and move like 1 pixel at a time. One more. There we go. And now I'm going to change actually the number of sides to 4. So we've got like this diamond shape, and it automatically kind of updated the size of it. So I need to kind of come in here and just finagle things. Let's round the caps on here and drop this inner radius down quite a bit. So we get this kind of 4-pointed star shape. The rounded, there should be, is there not a rounding on the points on this one? Apparently there's not. The caps are the caps of like a stroke or something, but it doesn't really matter at this point because there is no stroke on here. Rotation points, doesn't matter. Inner radius, outer radius is already fixed. So you can't really round the edges of this through the properties panel here. And if I look under the Polystar here, I don't think it should have the same thing, and I don't believe it will have roundness. It does not. So, oop, inner roundness, outer roundness. Yeah, it does. Okay, cool. Let's get a flower going. Ooh, neat. Yay, 125. Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry, guys. See, messing around like this, and you can find like new shapes to make. And this is kind of really, this is neat, you know, like you can go beyond and create really interesting looking intricate shapes just by this. Now, I'm going to keep this probably, let's do 125 and 25, or let's do 125 and like 50, because I like this kind of, I like actually when it starts to get kind of rounded in this edge right there in that inner corner. So I'm actually going to change that to 350. So it's kind of like a neat looking retro flower. And keep that one like that. What else can we do here? This null goes to, let's find out. I think it's to the triangles. Where is this one? Let's see when I move it. Oh, it's to the main, the grid. I'm going to say that. I'm actually going to make this smaller. So I'm going to scale it. We don't need more than one. You guys can put more than one in there if you want to. But it doesn't have to be. I'm going to make it 80%. Oh, and we need to center the, we need to center the anchor point. So selecting the layer, Control, double click that pan behind, and we got it centered there. And then hit V. And initially when you create the shape, wherever you create the shape is where the anchor point stays behind. So that's why it's not updating when I'm changing the size and stuff. But if you create it at the size you need it right away and in the spot you need it, then you shouldn't have a problem really having to adjust much of the anchor point. All right. Center it there. Let's name this flower. And I bet you we could increase the number of sides. 6. Cool. I like that one. Or 5. Did I put 6 or 5? There's 6 here. So that's neat. I actually like that. I'm going to save that. And then let's create, what else do we want to do here? Maybe something a little inside and opposite there. Let's grab a, how do we want to do this? Just thinking. Okay, let's try it with a rectangle. And we're going to draw the rectangle. I'm going to, well, a square, right? I'm going to hold down Shift and draw a square. I'm going to hit V, and I'm going to move this over here. And I'm actually going to change the color to black. Center it. Grab the fill. Change the color. There we go. And there. Let's see what we can do as far as like the roundness. If we increase the roundness, we're going to get a perfect circle. Skewing isn't going to work with that. Oh, let me select this and reset it. Let's throw an effect actually on this one. So if I go into, what I'm trying to do is essentially like take these corners and suck them in, right? In fact, I could do it with the star. Let's do it that way. Let me see a couple different ways. Let's see if we can find an effect that'll work with that. And so if I want to go, I need to find the effect I want to look for. If I'm going to close my properties panel up in the upper right corner, I'm going to close my line and my audio tab. And right here I have my effects and presets panel. And I want to distort this image. So if I look over here in the right side, you can see that there's a bunch of different like drop down menus here. I want to distort the shape. And so I'm just going to go into distort and drop that down. Now, if you start to remember these, you can remember which ones are which, right? And I kind of want to bulge this out. I actually want to bulge, like do the opposite and bring the bulging in. And so what I did is I grabbed this, I selected, highlighted this effect that I want to grab, and I clicked and I drug it over to the shape. And then I, let's move the center right here to the center of the shape. And then the other thing that you can do is you can grab it like this and drag it onto the actual layer if you wanted to. But I do not want to do that. Let's rename this. Let's change the color of these. Let's change this one to red. Let's change the flower color to like a dark purple or a yellow. Might look a little bit easier to see. And then we're going to name this one bulge shape, I guess. Or, I don't know, mod square, because it's modified square. I don't know if there's a specific term for this one. And let's just play around with these. Let's kind of, if you bring the bulge out this way and you bring it out this way, you can kind of get some interesting, let's see what happens if, can we go in a negative value? Let's do negative. Okay, not really. Bulge height. Okay, this one's not going to work. Let's delete this bulge effect. Let me see here. Oh, let's see what the reshape does. No, we're not going to do that. It's a complicated, that's a little bit more of a complex. Let's do this using the triangle. It's just going to be easy that way. Or I'm sorry, the words are hard. The star shape. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to click the star tool and I'm going to create a star. Here's a star. I make money. I'm a star. Hi, Millie. All right. And let's go back to the properties panel. Come on, Millie. You can come in here, Mama. My little girl. Let's select this. And on the properties panel, we're going to change the points to 4. And we are going to bring the outer radius in. Nope. Other way, I think. There we go. And then we're going to go into here under the polystar, under the shape, under the polystar path. And then this, what did we change there? The inner radius. Hi there, pretty girl. Hi there, pretty girl. My little doggy's looking in here. Come here, Millie. Come on, Millie. Hi, Mama. Come here. You're a good girl. She's scared to open the door. And so I want to change the, not the radius. Let's do the inner roundness. Not that way. The outer one. There we go. So very close. We're going to go to, let's do 200. There we go. Kind of like this inverted looking star shape. And I want to, yeah, let's keep that there. Let's center it in this square. Perfect. I'm going to save my work. Let's do something maybe like a pattern here, right? So, or like a pattern on this one. Which one do I want to do? I want to do, I think like, come here, Millie. Let's do a little pattern in this upper one, in this upper grid shape. Let me hit V on my keyboard to grab my selection tool and relabel this to, I don't know, inverted square so I don't keep things, get things all messed up. I'm going to save this. And we're going to create a pattern. But instead of creating the pattern like we did here manually, where we like changed the, like added the value manually with numbers, we're going to go ahead and create kind of like a grid of shapes. So I'm going to grab my circle tool and I'm going to create an ellipse, like a perfect circle. And I am going to rename it, label it to circle grid, or circle pattern is what I'll name it. And I want to make this so it kind of goes over and then down, right? So I want a bunch of circles to go over and down so that we're going to mask it out. So we're going to basically use this as like a window for these circles. I'm going to come over here first and change the circle size down to, let's do 30. I like a little bit smaller circle, give a little bit of variation in size of stuff here. And let's see where that center, if I select it, control double click there on the pan behind tool, we will center that anchor point. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Move here. If we want to move our composition around like I'm doing here, I don't know if I've told you guys, but if you hold down space bar, the little hand appears and you can click and drag your composition around. It doesn't move anything in the actual scene. It just moves the composition around so you can kind of pan around your scene and move to where you need to go. Here you go, Millie. Come on. There you go. All right. So let me select this shape layer of circle pattern. I'm going to save. And we're going to add something called a repeater. We're going to repeat the shape over and over into a pattern, right? So if you select the layer and you furl down the layer and you see the contents in the transform option, which are your basic panels or properties here. Let me do this here. And you look over to the side. There's this little options that says add with a tiny little triangle next to it. You're going to click on that little add triangle and you're going to go to the section that says repeater because we're going to repeat the shape. And when I clicked on that, all of a sudden two things happened, right? You look up here in your scene and you've got two extra circles or spheres or whatever. And then you look down here on your layer and it added this repeater in to your onto your layer as like an extra option here. And we're going to go into that repeater and we're going to start messing around with the options in order to create the pattern that we want, right? And so initially it always starts off with, when you unfurl this menu, it always starts off with 3 copies and an offset option. So, and then also a transform option of the repeater, which these transform properties work a little bit different than your normal transform properties, right? These ones are going to work just like you would say, like left, right, rotation, things like that. Now, when you start to rotate something, a repeated pattern, that rotation value and where it starts is going to be like, it's going to start from a different location. So we're going to unfurl that, but we're not really going to play around with it just quite yet. The first thing I want to do though is I want to increase the number of circles that we have here. And then I want to offset that. And so what the offset does is it changes which one's in the center. And so I want my center circle to be the middle of this because I have 7 circles total, right? And so the center one is the 4th one. So I just -3. I just wanted to offset at 3 so that your main shape that you created is in the center. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to repeat, but I want to repeat downwards. And so I'm going to actually select this repeater. We're going to have to add a second repeater to this, yeah, we're going to have to add a second repeater to this object here. And so what I want to do is I want to select the contents, or I'm sorry, let's select the layer in general, and we're going to go to add and just hit another repeater, and it's going to add a second one here. And we're going to drop this down and we're going to offset it by 3. We're going to change the copies here to, I don't know, let's do like 7 again. Or I'm sorry, this needs to be offset by -3. And now what we want to do is I want to bring this down. So instead of the position, once I open this transform repeater, it's offsetting those circles and adding those circles all on the X value. But now I want to add them on the Y value, right? So I need to go in here where it says 100 in the value area and on your X section, and I'm going to hit 0. And then I'm going to go to the Y position and I'm going to increase that to 100. So it is spaced out exactly the same. Now the spacing between this is a little bit far apart, so let's change the spacing on both of these repeaters to 50 so it's a little bit of a tighter grid. So I went here under the position and I typed in 50, and then you're also going to have to do that under the first repeater. And so it's a little bit easier when you're kind of going back and forth between two like drop down menus like that to kind of close one and change the other. And so right here under the first repeater, under the Transform Repeater 1 property tab, I'm going to go to the position and I'm going to type in where it says 100 on the X position, I'm going to type in 50. And so that's going to tighten that grid up for me. And now when I grab this circle, I can move over here and like just plop this right into my square. And now the cool thing, right, is that if I scale this, because these are transforms, like additional properties that I added to this layer, this shape layer, I can change the main, like if I change the position of this, or if I change the rotation, it's going to change all of them on a grid, right, instead of separately. So that's what's kind of neat about using these repeater patterns. It would have been beneficial probably down here, but we weren't using as many. And I was going to change the colors. That's the other thing, like changing the colors becomes more of a challenge when you're doing it with a repeater pattern, right? So let's see here. I wanted to scale this actually. So scale, because I want to scale the main one down to like, let's try 90. So they're just a little bit smaller. Perfect. Cool. I'm going to save that. And then this next one here, let's do, I don't know, let's do something with some lines. Repeat a line pattern, which is cool. So I'm going to grab my pen tool, which is also G for girl on the, like as far as your keyboard goes. Or you can come up to your toolbar in the top left corner and you can select the pen tool there. And I'm going to just draw a straight line, holding down shift. I'm going to click from one spot to the other spot. And I'm going to select this line. All of a sudden it says shape layer here. I'm going to hit, I'm just going to type line. And I'm going to add a stroke to it because right now it's at fill. And so we don't want to fill. We're not creating close shape. We're creating just a stroke. So I'm going to go over to my properties panel, which is the other way to change it. And I'm going to shut this fill off and turn the stroke on. So I'm going to go here and put solid color and then none. And then let's change this to let's change these ones to the white color. So, oh, not that. Let's grab what starts to happen is when you just clicking inside of your composition here or your scene, you're going to have a hard time grabbing what you need to. So just grab the layer if you need to do that. And then I'm going to change the color of those dots there. And then this one I'm going to keep, let's move this over here. Let's flip this to a vertical line. So I'm going to rotate it. If I go over here to I can change the transform properties over here. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so it's vertical. Oh, why did it do it like that? Did it from the center area. So I'm going to grab my there and then rotate the line. There we go. And I'm going to bring it over here. And we're going to add a repeater onto it. But we're going to adjust the strokes on there. So let's start off with, let's grab this line. Let's change the color of the let's cut these layer colors so that we can kind of differentiate between everything. I'm going to save. You can reuse colors, you know, it's not anything bad. And then I'm going to go to repeater. So I'm going to drop this down, go to the add a repeater, and it's repeating it downwards. So we want to change that, right? So we want to have, let's have like, we'll do 7 copies because that's easy. I don't want to change the offset because I don't need it to start from the center. And then instead of the X position, because I had rotated the line, is why the X position is going down and not to the left and right like it should. And so we're going to hit 0 on here. And then let's change this to 50. -50. So your values are kind of mirrored because of the rotation that I did on the initial one. And then let's see, I want to change the scale of these. Now, when I start to change the scale, it isn't going to change the scale evenly. What it's going to do is it's going to start to change the scale of each repeated pattern by this percentage. So, ooh, do I want it to do that? I do not. What else is changing here? I don't want it to change in both the X and the Y. I just want it to change in the Y value. So I'm going to decrease it. And notice it gets smaller, almost like window shutters. And I'm going to change, so I'm going to put that to 75. And then the main shape, I'm going to change the stroke width here to 15. So it's a little bit thicker on the first one and makes them, the rest of them, a little bit thicker there. And then I'm going to grab this line, hit P on the keyboard, and just tap the position over so that it's centered here. And then I'm also going to, I think, scale the height of it because I don't want them this tall as this. So I'm going to hit S on the keyboard, unlock the constraint parameters, and then scale the, let's scale that out a little bit and then scale the height. 110, let's add 110 to one, or add 10 to one, subtract 10 to the other. Yeah. Do I like that? I do not know. Let's change 100. I'm going to leave it there. I actually think I do want to rotate this back to 0. Let's see what it does. Okay, perfect. I think it looks better like that. And let's move that one down here. And change the color of the stroke to the cream colored background. And I'm going to save. And I'm going to type in here lines. And this next one, let's do... let's do like a layer, new shape layer. No. Ooh, what do I want to try? Let's do like another little grid pattern here. So I am going to select the, let's do a polygon. Do I want to? Yeah, polygon. Let's hold down shift and let's increase the number. Well, let's change the color first. Hold on. I'm going to select V on my tool here. And I'm going to move this, which is now a triangle, over here into the center. And let's increase the amount to 6. Let's see what 6-sided looks like. There we go. That's kind of neat. And I'm going to drag this up. I'm going to keep it a stroke. And move it over a little bit. Hi, Millie. Yeah, my little doggy. Okay. I'm going to save that. And I want to center the object. I'm going to type in here polygon for the shape. Millie down. Millie, lay down. Down all the way. All the way. All the way down. Good girl. And I'm going to double click. I'm going to control double click on that pen behind tool and then hit V on my keyboard. And let's change the stroke width to, I don't know, 8. Let's get it a little skinnier. And then let's change the size to 125. There we go. And then we're going to do a repeater on this one. Add the repeater. But we're going to do 3 copies, and we're going to change this, the position to 0, so it's 0, 0. So essentially everything's stacked on top of each other, right? And then we're going to bring the scale down on just the X value, I think, or the Y value. No, that's not it. Hey, that's kind of neat. We can create like a cube almost. Yeah, let's do that instead of these circles here. Ooh, that looks way more cool. Will it? Will I be able to? Oh, do I want to use it? I do want to use this. I want to use this instead of these triangles. So I'm going to take these triangles, all this work I did, I'm going to take them and delete them. And I'm going to take this polygon and I'm going to control, click the pen behind tool, and then I'm going to click on, grab my selection tool, bring this down here, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And you not working Y. There we go. Oh, here's the problem. Okay. I should have had it rotated first. So, because I'm rotating the layer, and when you do that, it's going to rotate all your subsequent repetitions. So, I'm going to delete the repeater. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to take the polygon. I want to pan behind, right? I'm going to bring this up here. So I centered that. And let's just change. Actually, I should have just changed the repeater directional change. There we go. Not the offset. I don't know why I did that. The position. No, these need to be rotated still. Honeycomb pattern. We could do that. That's kind of neat. Yeah, let's do a honeycomb pattern. This is kind of cool. And then change the outer radius to 100. It's a little bit smaller. And move this position over. There we go. That looks neat. And then let's do, actually let's make these solids because the stroke is cool, but I think a solid would be even more cool. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh, that's kind of neat. Shut the stroke off. And then the fill can be, ooh, that's a lot on top of each other. I like that. All right, cool. And then we've got one more to fill up. Let's do that with, let's take a little bit more of like a complicated shape, like maybe an arrow, and repeat that pattern. So the one thing that I want to do here is I'm going to grab my pen tool, and we don't want to fill. So I'm going to shut the fill off, and we want to stroke, and I'm going to do a fill like that. I'm going to do a black stroke. I want it to be the black here. And I'm going to create an arrow. So I'm going to hold down shift and click, and then I've got my stroke there. I'm going to increase it to 10. I know what's going on. I shut off my number pad. That's why it's not working. Oh, 10, not 100. And the next thing I want to do is I want to add to this shape layer here. So I'm going to type arrow. And I'm going to save this. And I want to actually bring the, I think I want to bring the anchor point down to the base of the stroke. So I'm going to grab that pan behind tool by clicking Y. Y on your keyboard, grabbing this, and then holding down shift, I'm going to drag the anchor point to the bottom here. And under the arrow, you're going to find under contents, the shape one. And so we want to add more to that, right? So I want to make sure that my shape is selected. I'm going to grab my pen tool again, which is G on the keyboard. And making sure that this layer is selected, I'm going to draw another shape slightly disconnected from here on this layer. So it adds like an additional shape right here. And then I'm going to duplicate this. And then, oh, not that. I want to make sure that I grab this shape right here. And then Control D to duplicate. And then we want to mirror this one. So if I go into the transform properties and under scale, if I type -100, it will mirror it. Oh, wrong way. Because I want to mirror it only in one dimension. I don't want to mirror it down. I want to just mirror it over the like x-axis. So I think I have to do it like, nope, like this. -100. Okay, and then I need to move it now so that they're in the same spot. So, let me grab this shape right here. And if you come in here and you select these specific like shapes, you can then move them individually. So I can grab this one and connect it right here to the center. And I can grab the stroke for this first part and bring it down here. Ooh. Make sure you grab the shape and not the entire layer. And then holding down shift, I dragged it right. I'm going to drag it right there. So they're like in line. And then I want to make sure that the stroke caps are a little bit different. So I'm going to round all of them on these, making sure. And that way they'll extend out and they kind of center there. And then this one too, I'm going to round that one. Cool. So now we have like this arrow. I'm not sure why I don't want to do that. I'm not quite sure why there's like this change in the area where it's overlapping here. I've never had this happen where like the values look different. Like, first of all, let me toggle this over. I'm gonna manually adjust them so that they are perfectly aligned. There we go. That looks good. Perfect there. Normal. Multiply. No, I don't want that. Just normal. It shouldn't be doing that. That's so odd. I'm just going to leave it like this, and I'll fix this issue later because I'm almost going to be done streaming. And then we'll we can do animation on the second part of this. So now if I were, because this is all under one shape layer, right? If I go and hit R for rotation, it's going to rotate my arrow like that, which is neat. So I'm going to do this and rotate my arrow on a 45-degree angle. And then I want to duplicate it in like a circle. So I'm going to add in like a circle, repeated circle pattern. So I'm going to go to the add button here and click repeater. And I want to have 4 repetitions. And the reason it's repeating all of the shapes at once is because the repeater, the way the layer order works under in a single shape layer is opposite of how it works in your timeline. In your timeline, whatever layer is on top is a layer that is showing above. In the shape layers under your contents panel, it works opposite of that. So the things on top are below. So it's important that your repeater is below after you've made the shapes. And I'm going to click this. I want 4 copies. And I don't want a positional change to repeated pattern. I want it to be rotation, right? So I'm going to come in here to position and I'm going to hit 0. And then I'm going to increase the rotation. Ooh, let me see here. Maybe it is the, nope, not the scale, not the anchor point. Maybe it is this. It's rotating it from the center. Where is this? When I go like this and I move the rotation, it's rotating it from like right here for some reason. If I grab the arrow, the anchor point's at the bottom there. Let me see here. Let's change the position. Oh, that's kind of neat. But that's not what I'm looking for. The anchor point. Let's do this. 500, negative 250. I don't know. Just doing like random values and seeing what happens. Sometimes if you're not sure how to do something, if you just enter in large values or you're not sure what does what, you enter in the large values and it will change it. You'll see whatever change is being made, right? So let's say negative 500. Let's do positive 250. Okay, getting somewhere. Now let's change the rotation to 45 degrees. Okay, kind of getting somewhere here. Nice. Let's increase the amount. Okay. So let's do 25. I don't even think we don't even need that many copies. Let's see how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 copies. I think my layer itself is like a different. No, it's unnormal. Interesting. Let's come into this repeater. There we go. And then we adjust this anchor point. So we're adjusting the anchor point where the anchor point is as far as like the center of where the rotational property is happening, right? So let's do negative 571 or negative 575. There we go. And now, look how nice that is. Perfect. And now I'm going to bring this over here. And I kind of want to tighten up the center area. So I think I'm going to just bring this, not the scale. Ooh, that would be like a cool shape to do like a spiral, right? So it's not the scale, but it's got to be the position. Wrong one. Wrong one. Maybe it is a scale. Let's see if I can center this. If I hit arrow, control, double click the pen behind tool. There we go. Now scaling this down a little bit more. Cool. And now I can grab my layer using the selection tool and drag that right into here. I think I'm gonna swap these so that this repeated pattern is back up here. In fact, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move this one. Oh, the repeated pattern. The lines. Let's move the lines. No, let's do them right here like we had before. And then here, I'm just going to hit undo. There we go. Zoom in here. Arrow things over a little bit to kind of be more centered. Neat. And then we're gonna drag this. I'm gonna make these orange, I think. Scale them down a little bit more to, let's say, 35. And change the color to this orange color. Okay, there we go, cool. Neat. Zoom in a little bit. Let's arrow these over, arrow the arrows until it looks pretty centered with that square. Zoom up a little bit. Nice. And now if we're going to rotate this, you know, it can look different. Like we can change the animation of the rotation and stuff. So let's just go to 0 on that. So we start at a 0 value. All right. And so now we have, let's put like a little circle or something in the center of that. That's got 8 sides. Let's put a polygon tool in the center of it. Or a polygon. Let's shift. Let's give it 8. Zoom in here. Let's change the color. V. Let's do this. So the center points line up. We're actually going to parent these together so that this polygon can control the entire shape. And then let's change this down to, let's just take the stroke off and we're going to do a fill. In fact, I'm going to do it from over here. Fill solid. Let's do 5 points. It's kind of, let's do 6. Let's see what the 6 looks like. All right, that's kind of neat. I like that a little bit more because it matches these ones. And then let's change the color of this one to, let's center that anchor point and grab it again, hit V, and let's change that to the white color. Let's do pink. Let's see what it looks like with the pink. I'll stick with the orange to keep for consistency. All right, that works. Cool. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these to orange. So all of these circles, I'm going to select all of them, change them all to the orange color. And then this, and so I'm going to change this to polygon, center, and make sure that the arrows in the polygon center are the same color layer. And then I want to change the colors of these are going to be the pink. Change the stroke color first, then change the polygon center color. All right. And so I want you guys to first start to build this out. I want to see you guys build out some kind of like poster grid with the shape, right? I'm going to reserve this next for the next lesson when I do the next live stream in a day or two. This is going to be reserved for all text, right? And so we're going to add some animated text, maybe some additional shapes or like lines or something over here to kind of separate it. But in general, I want you guys to kind of like design something out like this using the repeaters, using the different shapes, using, a limited color palette, right? That's the biggest thing. Limited color palette, using shapes, using repeaters, making sure you're setting things up, utilizing nulls when you need to, and just kind of getting used to building something out inside of After Effects. I'm going to stop the live stream here. And then on the next live stream, part 2, what we're going to do is we're going to add the text. We're going to animate all of this stuff. So enjoy doing this today. And then the next lesson will come out in the next day or so. So I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.